Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Conversational Witchcraft with me, Dawn the Kitchen Witch. I'm so happy to be here today. Before we get going, I've got to remind you to subscribe to this channel, subscribe to this podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you hit the buttons so you get the notifications when we have new stuff coming. And remember, you can support us. You can support this podcast. Click the link below to help support us and keep bringing you great information and inspiration about living magically. I would appreciate it, and I would love to hear your feedback. I do read and respond to all comments. So please leave us a comment. Let us know what you love and if there's things you don't love. Don't forget, you can learn more about me and food magic and kitchen witchcraft by visiting me at cucinaaurora.com. Now, today we've got a very special guest because we have another kitchen witch in the house, which is really exciting for me. We have Runa Troy. Runa Troy has been a craft practitioner for more than 40 years. She's the author of the book Magic in Your Cup, A Witch's Guide to Sippable Spellcraft, a book to help you find magic in everything you drink. When not occupied with freelance editing and writing work, she's growing her own food in the Pacific Northwest on a small, I cannot pronounce this word, permaculture holding with her partner who has bonsai-wolf farms and a spoiled flock of chickens and ducks. I'm sorry if I butchered that. I apologize. Hopefully our producer will be able to fix all of my misspeakings. And without further ado, Runa, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's permaculture. I know that word looks really weird.
It looks really weird. And I literally looked at that intro and like read it out loud like 3 times. And I was like, I can't pronounce this word. It's fine. It's fine. I don't make any qualms about that, you know? So you're in the Pacific Northwest.
Yes.
Whereabouts are you?
I am way up in the, against the North Sound in Bellingham, Washington.
I have a friend that lives in Bellingham, Washington.
Awesome.
Right. I love it out there. It's so beautiful. I think it gets a bad rap for being too cloudy or too rainy, but the truth is I have visited and I find it lovely.
Yes, we in this area have like the highest sunglass purchases in the United States. And part of that, I think, is because it's sunny, and you're wearing your glasses. And then we'll have like a good stretch of cloudy days, which locals love.
Yes.
We're like,
yes.
And we have to take that sun break. And then the sun comes back out and we're like, where are those sunglasses at?
So you have to buy another pair. That's great.
But it's a really magical place to live. I absolutely love it here. I'm not originally from here, but I've been here almost 20 years now and it's home.
What brought you out there?
Job, work.
And
work
you were
brought
just like,
me out here.
Here we go. We're moving. Where were you from originally?
I'm originally from Detroit, but I couldn't stay there. The Rust Belt and me just have like this love-hate relationship. And I've been traveling all over. I lived in Europe, I lived in Wyoming, I lived in Hawaii. And this place is home.
It's interesting how land and geography can really call to us. I'm originally from New York. I was born and raised on Long Island, New York, and I never ever, like even as a kid, I never really felt like I belonged there. And the first time I visited New England when I was about 11 or 12, I was like, oh, yes, this. And as an adult, like I worked my whole life going, I should go there. I should move there. I should move there. And now I live in Southern New Hampshire and it's exactly where I'm supposed to be. So I completely understand the call of the land. And I think as witches, we tend to hear it louder.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Right? I mean, you've got ocean, you've got mountains where you are, you know, how is it different from all the other places that you've lived spiritually? What
spiritually?
Yeah.
It's very much like you said, it talks to me. Like I remember when we first moved out here, my partner and I, and that was quite a journey because we left Detroit with 5 kids and a dog and
Oh my goodness. Wow.
2 cars and a trailer and
Wow.
literally moved across the country.
Yeah.
And I remember coming over a crest heading east on I-90 from Seattle because when we first got here, we stayed in the Seattle region, work was there and everything like that. And we were trying to find a home. And we came over this crest heading east into I-90, and I just saw the Cascades and the green, and I could smell the ocean. And I was like, this is
Mm.
it. This is where I belong. And I have just been developing that relationship with the land ever since. Like it really, I mean, it's always been a part of my practice, but it came full force and said, this is your first and foremost focus. You need to work with the land. You need to work with the land spirits. And uh, it started all with what I was putting in my body.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So drink,
Absolutely.
food, all of that.
Right.
And here we are today where
Yeah.
that path has led here.
So let's go back a little ways because we don't know each other, and I'd love to know
Nope.
like I'd love to know your story. Like as a fellow kitchen witch, self-defined kitchen witch, um, you know, for me, that started, I grew up in a very traditional Italian Catholic family. So it
Mhm.
and like I said, from New York. So food was the center of fucking everything. You know what I mean? Like everything. Um, and as I got older and I found my spiritual path and decided that church wasn't for me, I realized these were the things that were calling to me. How did you discover witchcraft in the first place?
I was always seeking. I was a young child who saw the spirit realm
Mm.
and was dismissed for it, was, why is grandpa there when grandpa hasn't been around?
And you're like, yeah, he's right
So,
there. He's right there. He's hanging out.
and there was
Yeah.
no one around me to do that, but I felt that energetic connection, that spirit in the things that I ate and drank. And it was spurred on by the fact of that seeking. I was a kid that was constantly in the library. Like I was summertime reading programs. I was way up there in the front
I
because
love
I
it.
was in the library. I was reading, I was studying. And, Gen X, they were like, oh, you're out of our hair. That's great. And the librarians were like, oh, I saw that you were reading this book about comparative religions. Would you like to see this book? Would you like to? So then I started going down looking for books, trying to find more information because it just called to me. I think the first witchcraft book that I bought was I was about 13 years old. I saw it. There was this little head shop down around the corner from where
Yeah.
we lived. And so they sold all the smoke stuff, but they had all the occult stuff, crystals and dragons and all
Right.
that cool
Right.
stuff. And it smelled like incense when you walked in. And they had a book called Positive Magic by Marian Weinstein. And I was like, oh, well, the conservative people in my family won't, that's positivity,
Mm-hmm.
I
Maybe I
learned
won't get in
otherwise.
trouble, right? Maybe I won't get in trouble if my parents find this book,
Yeah.
right?
But but that was it. My family was very conservative, Midwest Protestants, and life was all about, working hard and going forward, which has served me well, but it didn't allow for a lot of spiritual experimentation. So kitchen
Mm.
witchery and mixology came into my life as a way to do spellcraft, as a way to connect with spirit and do it privately, and none were the wiser.
It's something that I've really loved about being a kitchen witch, especially in the early days when I was practicing and I was in my, when I was still living at home, I was 19, 20 years old and I was still living in my parents' home and being able to be in the kitchen and be cooking grandma's recipes, but doing it my way, doing it with intention, being so particular, being so
Mhm.
intentional about what I was cooking. And everybody's just like, oh, isn't that nice? You decided to cook dinner. And I'm like, yes, but also this is spell work, but also I'm feeding you magic, you know? Um,
Mhm.
I think that it is, you had said, I don't know if it was, we were recording when you said it, but that we get a lot of flack out there for being kitchen witches. What did you mean by that?
I think that there is a lot of misunderstanding, especially now, because the witchcraft community, at least in the United States for sure, but also across the world, has been able to come together because of the internet, because of
Yes.
technology. You're in New England and I'm on the Pacific Northwest coast. When I was coming up in the craft, there wasn't that kind of community. There wasn't that kind of resources. And because I have also, in dual working with the land, my craft has always been about creating magic in those mundane things because I understand very much in my life because I've been just hustling the entire time. I don't come from some great backgrounds. I mean, I love my family and I love the lessons that I learned. I can say that now in my crone-dom, but that kind of information and connection wasn't available. But I could find that in the kitchen every single day, with the water that I drank in the morning, with the food that I prepared, with the tea that I would brew at night so that I could do my dream work, even
Yep.
way back when I was a teenager. So I think that there is this push for everyone to be very, very, I'm trying to think of the right word that encapsulates it, but not everybody's going to be out there with their witchcraft, not necessarily even out of the broom closet, not even saying that they're necessarily hiding it, but we're all not going to be influences in it. We're not going to be spokespeople for the community,
Yes.
and and finding a path to the craft starts somewhere. And I have a really hard time thinking that starting with what you're putting in your body every day and making it a magical experience is a negative thing. Do women get stuck in the kitchen? Are as a majority of those practicing the craft women? Yes, yes. But it doesn't have to be a kind of uh, gendered or
Mm.
oppressive situation. Being in charge of what you're eating every day, that's power, honey.
Agree, agree. I just want to like address a couple of your points in there. I don't care how you identify as your gender. That's between you and you, but
Right?
everybody fucking eats food.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody
Mm-hmm.
eats food. It's life, right? Food is life, water is life. How we nourish our bodies is the same thing as nourishing our souls.
Yes.
And in my first of all, yes, not everybody is going to be super public about their practice, and I think there is, because of social media, I think there is a pressure for those of us who are Gen X to go and be like, oh, everything I do I have to record and I have to put it online because otherwise I can't, build my business or my personal brand. But then how do I draw the line between what's public and what's private, and that, so I think that in and of itself is a whole nother episode that we could discuss the whole thing. But right, like, but I also think that these simple, pretty much ancient magics, kitchen witchcraft, garden witchcraft, green witchcraft, these folk magics that have been passed on for generation for generation for generation for generation, often can get lost in the shuffle because they are everyday practices.
Mm-hmm.
And there are parts of the witchcraft community that, in my experience, I feel as if I'm being looked down on because
Mm-hmm.
I don't do these big esoteric, psychic seance, what, like, I don't work in those spaces, at least not on an everyday basis. Like, that's a special occasion if I'm going to do something that is that elaborate, right?
Mm-hmm.
In my
Yeah.
world, and that's not saying that that's bad. I mean, if you can do that all the time, if you have the energy, the time, the money, the resources to do that kind of practice all the time,
Yes.
good for you. I don't know. Witchcraft for me is my real life. It's
Mm-hmm.
part of my everyday life. And
Yeah.
working with the land, farming, herbalism, food, drink, all of those things allow us to intertwine our spiritual craft into our everyday life, and they are not lesser.
Mm-mm. No. And that I think is comes at the heart of, why is there even flack about it? Labels are witches are resistant to labels. However, labels serve a purpose in that if I tell you I am a kitchen witch or that I'm a gardener, you know immediately what path I'm on, what action I'm taking, those kinds of things. And so in that regard, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. And again, I am so about making magic accessible and sustainable for people.
Yes.
And doing it in your home, whether you call it hearth magic, kitchen witchery, alchemy, whatever you want to call it, it's still magic. And let's
Yes.
not let the labels get in the way of creating more magic in the world because, damn it, we need it.
We do. And I do think that there is something to be said about starting at home, starting with you, right? Yeah, we use that analogy of, being on an airplane and you're always told, put the oxygen on yourself before you put it on someone else, even if you're traveling with someone you love, right? And I think these simple magics and rituals and everyday practices are the oxygen that feeds our spiritual hearts and souls. And we have to start in the microcosm of
Mhm.
our own homes and our own families, because that is how that's the gateway to how we respond and react to the rest of the world, right? And
Absolutely.
right, and then that ripple effect, right?
Mhm.
If I'm taking care of myself spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically, then I have more to give to other people. And then they have more to give to other people. And they have more to give to other people. And to me, if you agree or not, tell me, please, that's the heart of witchcraft.
Yes, absolutely. And you were talking about, you know, uh, ancient forms of magic. 500 years ago, being fed every day was the whole mission. That was the whole mission.
Right.
And so, uh, absolutely, things were gathered with intention, they were prepared with intention. That our ancestors developed relationships with everything that fed and nourished them. And so continuing in that, I think, and then being able to take it to the next level is the privilege that they allowed us to have. And that is also a big part of my own practice is that
Yes.
ancestral acknowledgement, veneration, and bringing what they already did. And like you said, making it that much better.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, when we look at the wheel of the year, right? The witch's wheel of the year, it is marked by solstices and equinoxes and harvest festivals. Harvest festivals, right? Right?
Yes.
Planting season, harvest season, growth season, no growth season. It's all about food.
Hmm.
It's about feeding ourselves. It's about being in harmony with the cycles of the earth based on what food she is providing for us at that time. Right?
Yes.
That's the whole I'm so happy to hear you say these things because I'm always like, why doesn't anybody get this?
Oh, I get it, sister. I
Right?
get it.
I mean, I just taught 2 kitchen witch classes over the weekend, this past weekend, and trying to being the topic of deeper connection with food. through kitchen witchcraft. And this is what we're talking about, that connection of spirit and earth, spirit and season, and that everything comes back to how we feed our souls and how we feed our bodies. Now, I am not saying you shouldn't eat Oreos from time to time.
Oh, no, never. I would never tell anybody
Yeah,
that.
right, right. But understanding where that comes from, that it is manufactured, and tapping into how you feel about that can also still be magic, even if it's not of the natural world, right? Because
Right.
Oreos aren't of the natural world. There's
No.
right. Don't sue me, Nabisco. Please don't sue me, Nabisco. But yeah, I mean, that's the basis of all of our practices. So, okay, so you're 13 years old. Sorry, back to you.
It's okay. I love it. I love it. I don't get to talk like this with a lot of folks either.
Right. So you're 13 years old and you start reading about witchcraft and you start practicing in the kitchen, simple rituals, simple spellcraft. How does that go from just being home and doing that to now I've been practicing witchcraft and writing books on kitchen witchcraft for 4 decades? Like, how does that, where's the middle?
Where's the middle?
Where's the middle?
The middle is I was the eldest child in a family of 6. My parents both worked outside the home. And so I was leaned on really hard. I cooked dinner or started dinner every night, like from the time that I could pretty much be at the stove. And then back in the day when I was 19, I could be a bartender because the laws were different. And by the time I turned 21, then it was 21. And so I've been bartending or serving coffee or tea to people up until the time that then I joined the service, which was then a huge opening for different magics in the world to me.
Wow.
And then when I was raising my family here in the Pacific Northwest, houselessness is a issue that is heartbreaking to me. And it's something that has changed significantly since I was a child in the city of Detroit to where we are now in 2024. And our local shelter had a program where you could cook in your home and bring it to the shelter and serve it to the people. And I felt like that was such a huge lesson for myself and my family to learn about gratitude and their community and how we take care of one another. And my kids knew that when I was creating the trays of lasagna or beef stew or whatever it was we were cooking that week for the shelter, that I was putting one of the simplest spells that I do and say even today is that I am sending energy and love so that you are safe and warm and dry and fed. You, fellow person in my community, here is something I know I can do and I can immediately affect and make something better for you. And uh, in 2017, I was like, you know what? I need to start teaching younger witches first starting out on the path. I want to be able to teach them all of the things that I have learned throughout the years. And there are tons of stories about that in the book too. So like each recipe has a foundation of where in my life timeline that magic came into play. And so those kinds of things from bartending and cooking for my family and cooking for my community have all come together and created a practice that is grounded in self-love, kindred love, and community love. And I am pretty happy with that. If you would have told me at 16 even that this is the kind of witch that I would be, I would have laughed at you. I wanted to be the high priestess. No, that's not where my power is. My power is knowing that this herb is going to make my anxiety less, or that this drink is going to fuel me to be around people, which is always very difficult for my deep
Yeah.
introverted self.
Yeah.
But I have these tools now, and I want to share it with people because I know that 13-year-old me or 25-year-old me or even 35-year-old me would have loved to have had that.
I love that so much. And first, I want to respond to that all with, thank you and congratulations on working deeply within your community, specifically with people that are unhomed, to make their world a little bit brighter. I mean, that is the basics of witchcraft in action, right? It is to help others, to fill your own cup, but also to fill the cups of others, and help them experience life in an easier way, even just for a moment with a good meal, right?
Yeah.
And then I also want to just say how much I love what you just said about I wanted to be the high priestess, right? Like
Mhm.
I as well wanted to be like this, the image of like the powerful sorceress, beautiful, blah blah. And I realized I'm Stregonona,
Hey,
right?
you know what? I've known some Straganonas. I
Right?
grew up on the east side of Detroit, and they taught me magic too. And
Right.
that's a
Like
great place to be.
right. I can make you better with a batch of meatballs. I can fix anything that is going on in your life. I'm going to cook you a meal and you're going to feel better, right?
Yes.
And realizing what I needed as a child, as a young adult, was a place to feel comfortable and
Mm-hmm.
loved and accepted. And
Yes.
so my witchcraft for myself and others is about making others feel loved and welcome and accepted, no matter where you come from, no matter what your background is, no matter who you love, no matter how you identify, you're welcome at this table. We can
Yes.
always share a meal together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think that you are 100% right that doesn't seem to, that type of magic doesn't seem to hold as much weight in community as it should. But we wise women have been doing this for centuries, right? In the
Mm-hmm.
shadows, just being who we are, just doing what we do, growing the
Yep.
food, cooking the food, sharing the food. I mean, when we think about how we celebrate life, it's always through kitchen witchcraft. And that's something I tell people like, did you ever make a meal for someone when someone they love passed away? That's magic.
Yes. Yes. And that is one of the things that I've always done in community. You know, someone has this really terrible, devastating loss, whatever it may be. And, there's a lot of joking about it in the Midwest about the casserole train, but I'll tell you what, that is community in action. And the thing that I think that those who practice that kind of magic, kitchen witchery, alchemy, mixology, they know that it isn't just then that you show up
Mhm.
too. It's every meal. It's breakfast, it's lunch, it's dinner, it's the coffee break, it's the siesta on a Saturday. It's
Yep.
it's every single day. And because magic takes so much energy, so much time, so many resources, that being able to apply and weave that energy and help it push forward in a particular goal, whether it's just nourishment or if it's, like you said, love or healing, that is pretty powerful because it's going to touch a lot of people every single day.
Yeah, 100%. And if you've ever been on the receiving end of those things, you know how powerful they are. You know,
Mhm.
I, I think and most of us have lost someone and or been sick. Or I remember during COVID, one of my cats passed away and I was devastated, but no one could come. I couldn't see anybody. I was so upset. And my cousin drove, she baked me a pie and drove from Boston to my house in New Hampshire and left me because we couldn't interact. She left me this pie and she put a bunch of snacks in a bag for me and she just put them it, at the front door and then called me and said, go check your front door. And I was like, this is this kindness, this love. And then specifically like the ingredients she used, she didn't even know that what she was doing or the ingredients she was using were magical to heal this particular wound. We've all been on a receiving end of something like that. The casserole train is real. And when my father passed away, had we not had the casserole train, we would not have eaten. Right? So
Yes.
there's so much magic in all of that. Oh my goodness, Runa, we could talk about this forever, but I really, 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 I can't, I blinked and a half hour went by. We need to talk about your new book. So let's take a quick break. Let's hear from our amazing sponsors. And then let's come back and let's dig into your new book, which is Magic in Your Cup, which is very exciting for me. So we'll be right back. We're going to hear from our sponsors and then we'll be right back with Runa Troy. We're back with Runa Troy. I feel like we're just fangirling all over Kitchen Witchcraft and it's spec-fucking-tacular. Okay. Runa, your new book, Magic in Your Cup. So this is Kitchen Witchcraft, but it's really around beverages, which is super fun because again, food is life, drink is life. So what brought you to write this book right now? Like,
I actually had set out to write a very kind of defined kitchen witchery book that was focused about seasons, working through the seasons, working through the Sabbats. And they said, yes, but we like these drink recipes you have. Can you do the book on just that? And I said, oh yeah, I can do that. I can do that. And so are you a writer? I don't know if you're a writer.
Yes, I am. I have a couple of books on kitchen witchcraft.
That's right. That's right. And the first draft you're writing to yourself, right?
Oh God, yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
So as I wrote the first draft, I was like, wow, this is a bigger core of my practice than I actually even realized. Like this is a whole other like little side quest here. And so it was a real blessing from the universe because the universe said, oh yeah, there's some great kitchen witch books out there. And there's stuff on mixology too, but my perspective, I think, is slightly different. And I incorporate just about everything. It's not just cocktails. I'm a big coffee snob, which I know you are too.
Oh my God, I'm such a coffee snob. I'm such a coffee snob that I actually had to bring out my own line of coffee through my company because I couldn't find what I wanted here.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing.
Yeah, and it's because of a trip to the Pacific Northwest. So,
oh my gosh, that is so cool.
Yeah,
oh my God.
For real. Huge coffee snob. We're gonna geek out about coffee.
Yeah. And so and even in the book, I do everything like just making cordials, making aqua frescas. There are so many things that I do every single season that bring magic through drink. Then they're all incorporated in the book. And it has showed me that there are so many more doors for the craft that I even recognized 40 years later. And so I hope that when people read the book, that they see the little invitations, and the entire book itself is a working. So if you work through that, you're going to find a little extra magic at the end of the book.
If you start at the beginning and go to the end, it's a whole, because it's seasonal, right?
It does. We talk about from the very basics, like here's your brew tips and techniques. Here are all the different glasses and the tools that you can use. But here's where you can start. You can start with a cup of water in the morning.
So powerful. So powerful to start. I mean, both emotionally, spiritually, and also physically to start with a glass of water in the morning. Like if you did nothing else in your life but drink 8 ounces of water as soon as you woke up, you would immediately see a difference in your entire life.
Yes. Your skin is healthier, your hair is healthier, you have more energy. Like it's amazing. I'm a big witch aid user. I have a 12-ounce glass of water with a little bit of lemon juice and a little bit of sea salt in it every single day. I
Mm-hmm.
stir that up. I set an intention for my day. And that's how I start my day every single day. I
Yep.
start it connecting with the energy of the world and what we need in our bodies the most, water, because we are mostly water. So,
Correct. Correct.
uh,
I was at an event, I was on a panel, and the question that was asked was, can you separate out the elements? Can you practice witchcraft by and at the same time separate out the elements earth, air, fire, water? And I said, absolutely not, because we are the elements. We are earth, air, fire, water. The food we eat, the beverages we drink, the makeup of our cells, we are one and the same. So we absolutely cannot separate ourselves and our witchcraft from the elements. People think, oh, I'm not an elemental practicing kitchen witch, or I'm not an elemental practicing witch. But by virtue of being alive, you can't, you kind of are. What do you say to that?
I would say that I absolutely agree. Everything that we pick up has all of the elements in it, everywhere. I mean, everything that I look at right now, I can see air, water, fire, and earth, everything. And being able to connect with those elements is one of the big pushes in Magic in Your Cup. It's
Right.
like, here, you may think that you don't have these quote unquote powers, but you do. You have these abilities, but you have to learn them. You know, I'm coming back to spirit work over the last 10 years for the first time since I was a tyke, because I was taught that that was no bueno. So
Right.
coming, you can develop all of those skills and that. And even I have a friend who, she is such a powerful witch, but she's a questioning witch. She's a Sagittarian. So she's like, is that true? Like every word out of her mouth is like, can you explain that to me? How do, may help me understand. She recognizes, after I've been teaching her over the past few years, that that connection, that everyday connection that you make with everything in your life
Mm-hmm.
is the craft. It very much is the craft. If you want to then take that connection and create spellcraft from it or some
Mm-hmm.
kind of ritual, that's magic. That's the
Yes.
magic part.
I agree 100%. I say it all the time. I say it all the time in this podcast. I say this all the time in my life. Witchcraft is not something we do, it's something we are. We
Mhm.
are witchcraft. We are energy, and our cells and our beings are the same stuff as the earth, the air, the fire, the water, the universe. We are the same stuff. We cannot separate ourselves from it. And I love that your friend asks why and can explain it more.
Mhm.
Because that questioning, that cerebral part is also can also be magical, because it's you're figuring out that
Mhm.
this is the truth for you. And I just love that so much. So as we were talking about your new book, Magic in Your Cup, and we love coffee. We should, I have a couple of other questions for you about the book, but we should really talk about coffee before we get into that.
Okay.
Tell me about your morning coffee ritual.
Well, it starts from where I get the beans.
Mm-hmm.
It starts from where I get the beans. And I talk about this in the book too, that um, understanding where our food comes from and the uh, energy that is enacted, created in producing those beans is very important to me. And I, my husband, my partner, used to work for a major coffee industry. I have done communications, uh, professionalism for too many years. And one of my clients was a coffee roaster and producer. And so I've really gotten kind of the background of what that looks like in the world. And so I'm very particular about where my beans come from, how they're roasted. And then I'm really lazy after that because I have a combination grinder, brewer on a timer, and it goes off every morning at 6:15 so that my partner can get his first cup of coffee. I'm already outside doing barn chores by that time. And so I don't get my first cup until after the animal care is done. But it's waiting for me. And then I have a ember mug because I love my coffee at the right temperature.
Okay, I'm with you. I'm with you.
And so, and when I pour my cup of coffee, it's a moment of rest and recharge. So that first morning coffee, I pour it. I always put my hand on top of any glass or any mug or anything. It's just natural for me now, like normal. Like I don't know that I could not put my hand above it and put an intention into that glass.
Yeah.
And then I head outside and sit on the porch or the patio, depending on where the wind is coming from. And I just connect with Mama Earth or Sky Daddy, whatever I need on that day. And I enjoy that cup of coffee.
Hell yes, you do. Hell yes, you do. Okay, so weirdly, my partner, he also works for a large coffee company here on the East Coast, which is crazy that we have that in common. And so he was not a coffee drinker before he started working there. And I have been a coffee drinker for many, many years. And like you, I'm very particular about where are my beans coming from, making sure they're not in any way associated with slave labor, because that's a real thing, people.
Yes.
You see, that's what you're looking for, ethically sourced, you're looking for fair trade certified.
Right.
It's a little bit more expensive, but it is entirely necessary. It's entirely
Yes.
necessary. And so he started working there about 7 years ago. He got into coffee. I was like, oh, thank God, now you like this. It's something else we can do together, and we have many different coffee rituals. So we do like our daily coffee, right? I get up every morning and I make him a cup of coffee for him to go to work with that coffee.
Nice.
And I get up every morning and make myself a cup of coffee, whether it is I'm working from home or I'm out on the road or whatever I'm doing. But with each of those things, there is stirring clockwise, right? Sometimes it's 3 times, sometimes it's 6, sometimes 9, sometimes 12, depending on what I'm putting in there, always in multiples of 3. There's always intention setting in the morning. And I'm being honest with you, Runa, sometimes that's the only magic I can consciously do today.
Absolutely.
Because we live big lives, right? And that's another part of this type of magic that you talk about, magic in your cup, that is so potent and tactile and we can do every single day, right? That's
Yes.
it. That's my simple coffee ritual. If I do nothing else, I did that. And I can feel good about that. And I can set that intention for the rest of the day. Yes, I love my coffee and it will never change. And I'm okay with that.
Yes.
But yeah, we had gone out to the Pacific Northwest in 2019. We took a trip to Portland and it was so great. And we took a walking coffee tour of downtown Portland and learned so much about that third wave coffee roasting European style. And I came home and I was like, there's nobody here on the East Coast that does that. So I'm gonna start doing that. Or working with a roastery that would do that for my own brand. And it's awesome. Like now it's a problem. It's a problem because I drink all my own product, which is it's an issue. It's an issue. It's an issue. Okay. So can you tell me when your coffee obsession started?
Pretty young. My dad was an avid coffee drinker, but
Really?
I would not drink his coffee today. His coffee was terrible unless you put some intention in it. if you actually made the damn Folgers with some intention in it, you maybe would have a decent cup of coffee.
Right.
But I grew up drinking really bad coffee, and my father was avid that you do not pollute it. Don't pollute it. You will drink it hot and you will drink it black, or you will not drink it.
Ew. Ew. Yeah, my mother
So
drinks
I
and
sought out good
Sanka.
coffee
Yes.
from that point on.
Yes. Because you're like, it needs to taste good. Absolutely. Do you put cream and sugar or anything in now, or is it just black?
I drink it black.
You just,
I love a good latte and a good cappuccino though.
yeah.
So, but I typically, I mean, I'll do a home latte because I have a little frother or whatever,
Yes.
because I just live in a little tiny cottage. But so I can't have the big
Yep.
lovely coffee machine.
Yep.
But that's where I do some of my community magic, as I am a big supporter of the local roasters and the local cafes, and
Mhm.
I find the baristas that put a little extra magic in it
Yep.
and make me the best damn latte or cappuccino that I can find.
It makes a difference. It makes a
Mhm.
difference. We do on the weekends. My husband is the coffee king, and he has a little milk frother, and now he's got the little cup and then this, because we also don't have the space to have the big machine, right? So he's always experimenting with new ways of whipping up the milk, and oh shoot, because I can't have dairy, so should we do oat, should we do which one is better, the oat or the soy or the almond, or the and it's a whole ritual. And to be fair, a lot of these drink rituals, kitchen rituals, things around food that you're sharing with others can become practices you do with the people you love. So even us as solitary witches can then share that
Mhm.
with our loved ones, which is great.
Yes, that's one of my favorite ways to do magic is to share those potions and concoctions and create cheer or ease or comfort in any way that I can. And I really am excited that Magic in Your Cup is going to be a little tomb of that in everybody's home to pull out when they need it for whatever reason.
Yes. So right now we're recording this episode and it's the fall, but this episode is going to air in December around the holidays. So talk to us about so this is a great gift. This is a great gift, whether you're a witch or you're not a witch, for someone who just wants to have a little extra magic in their day, or just wants to, maybe they love coffee, maybe they love drinks, whatever it is. This is a great gift for them. But because we are approaching the holidays, are there 3 drinks that you would recommend for the winter season, that you could let everyone know, like these are the best drinks or the best ingredients to celebrate the season?
Yes. First of all, my favorite that starts right about now that we're recording, but all the way through winter, is wassail
Mm,
or any kind of mulled cider or mulled wine. You know, glühwein is great. Uh, I have glühwein today, and I am immediately transported to the Christmas markets in Europe.
mhm.
Wassail is like a hug, a warm hug from the land. The apple ciders and the spices and just all the good feels that come with wassail.
Mhm.
And then in the book, I have a good story and recipe called Good Forward Nog. And it's my grandfather used to make Tom and Jerry's, and he would make the old school, like get a dozen eggs and cream and everything and brew that up. And he'd be tasting it and checking it and everything like that. And one year I remember, and we all got to drink it, no matter what our age, we all got a little Tom and Jerry
Little
cup,
sip, yeah.
little sip and everything like that. You know, at Thanksgiving, all of that, you were able to have a little champagne or a little wine,
Uh-huh.
glühwein or a little wassail or a little Tom and Jerry's. And so it's such a kind of a touchstone for those ancestors again. But he would get really upset if you tried to mess with his recipe. Like my aunt would always wanted a little more nutmeg in hers. And, you know, that was easily handled because she could just sprinkle a little bit more
Right.
nutmeg in hers. Well, one year my uncle went and, put a little extra booze in the punch bowl. Oh, and my grandfather was furious. He was absolutely furious. And he said, "You messed with my magic. You messed with my magic." And he made my uncle go to the store. So this is Christmas Eve. And, it's probably snowing outside because it's Michigan. And he had to go and get eggs and cream and the whole 9 yards so my grandmother could make a whole
Yes.
recipe again because he messed with the magic.
Absolutely. I agree with grandpa. I agree with grandpa. I think that's absolutely fantastic. So Runa, the book is called Magic in Your Cup.
Yes.
Where can everyone buy this book? Where can we follow you online? How do we connect with you?
You can find me online at runatroy.com and all of the areas where you can find the book, find my Patreon, because my patrons get mixology classes every month along with rune classes, because I'm all about that elemental witchcraft with the runes. And that anywhere that you buy books, you're going to be able to find it.
Excellent. So we'll put all of your links and everything on the show notes so people will be able to find you.
Oh,
Um,
fabulous. Thank
okay,
you.
last question, and I ask this to everybody that comes on the show. It's a little different because you're a kitchen witch too. Okay. But maybe this is good because I'm a
Okay.
kitchen witch and no one ever wants to cook for me because I cook for everybody else. So if you could have me cook you one magical meal, what would it be and why?
You're going to hate me.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I
I want
promise.
Easter pie.
Easter pie. Okay, but
Yeah.
there's a bunch of different ways of making that. Like in my family, it was sort of good the cheese, and then we do ham and prosciutto, and then you would do a layer of sliced hard-boiled eggs, and
Hmm.
then more cheese, and then bacon, like literally a heart attack in a pie shell.
Yes. Yes.
What's the
I
story behind this? Why is that your thing? Because you didn't hesitate. You were like, bam, Easter pie.
you come from a culture that I'm very, very familiar with and who created community for me when I was a lost little girl, so to speak. And I remember the effort and the specialness of Easter pie in those East Side Detroit Italian family homes, and it was so good.
So good. We only make it once a year because it's so good
Yes.
and so much effort. But it's and it's funny because so my family made it that way, the way I just described it. And then my husband's mother is Italian, but his father is Scott. And she makes it a completely different way. So like it's all these little families from, New York. Like if you lived in this neighborhood, you made it this way. If you lived in that neighborhood, you made it that way. But how wonderful is that these foods connect you to a time in your life that was community driven and
Hmm.
also freaking delicious, right?
Oh my gosh. And the all the different types of ways to make that recipe
Right?
is the special part of it. The
Right.
fact that I could go over to this home and it would be made one way and go to another home and it's different, but yet both of them are delicious and made with so much love.
Right. You think like there's only 5 ingredients. But they all do it a different way. It's insane. And I remember being a kid and I didn't like it because as a little kid, I didn't like my cheese couldn't touch other things. I was one of those kids where like everything had to be
Mm.
separate. And this
Separate.
was just like a glob of cheesy goodness all together. And I remember I was like, that looks disgusting. Don't even put it near me. And then I remember being like in my teens and it being out on the table at Easter and going, oh my God, I forgot this. What is this? This is delicious. Like tasting it for the first time, even though it had always been in front of me. I just love that that's what you chose. Thank you for that. And and thank you so much for being here. I had such a blast chatting with you.
Same, same. Thank you so much
Seriously.
for inviting me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. And the book is wonderful. Magic in Your Cup by Runa Troy. Go find it wherever books are sold. Support your local bookstore, support your local metaphysical shops, your local magic shops. Find Runa online. And until next time, everyone, I wish you so, so many blessings and so much gratitude. Thank you so much.
You good. Be magic.